Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Laserfiche Q&A webinar. Today we'll be showing you just how easy it is to automate any business process utilizing Laserfiche forms and workflow, followed by a question and answer session in which we will be answering questions from our attendees. My name is Dione. I'm the marketing manager here at AMI, and I will be your moderator today. Just a couple housekeeping items before we start today's discussion. Please make sure to enter your audio pin if you are dialing in and are not using your computer audio. Also, please mute yourself just in case to avoid background noise. To interact with us, you may raise your hand, your virtual hand, to ask an audio question by clicking the little hand icon on your GoToWebinar control panel. We will open the lines up for questions at the very end of the session. Also, please write your comments and questions throughout the presentation tab on your GoToWebinar control panel. Feel free to take notes if you wish, but the webinar will be recorded and will be shared with other interested attendees along with the slide deck itself, of course. Here's our agenda for today. For our first portion, we will have our Enterprise Content Management Specialist create an eForm and workflow logic in under 1 hour. During our second portion, we will be taking various questions related to the demonstration and anything related to Laserfiche. I am going to go ahead and see if we can't mute attendees. Again, just a reminder to mute yourself if you do have any background noise. We're getting a bit of feedback there. All right, we have Jeffrey Long, our COO, and Claude Fan, one of our implementation engineers, on the line with us. They will be demonstrating how easy it is to automate any business process. Claude will actually be building a time off request eForm and the workflow logic behind it. He will then publish it. He will pretend he's an actual employee requesting time off. He will complete the form, which will initiate the review and approval process through his manager in HR. This is not too different from the manual document and forms-based processes many of you employ inside your organizations today. And again, the purpose of all this is to show you how easy it is. We found that sometimes customers think workflows are complicated or that they're difficult to automate. Once that is complete, we will open the session to Q&A. And the Q&A questions can be on the topic of the demo, or as is the format of our Q&A calls, it can be anything regarding Laserfiche. So I will now turn over the screen to Claude.
Having the specificity from, somebody trained like that, look at the detail in every part, compared to what?
All right. Thank you, Dione. Can everybody see my screen?
Yes, I can see it.
All right. So like Dione said, we're just going to build a very simple employee time off request form, and then it's going to go into workflow, run a little bit of logic, and then end up storing in the repository. So to begin here, we're just going to log in the forms. So I know some of the people here might not be familiar with forms or might not have used it before, but this is what the form setup looks like. It is a web browser activity, so you're going to have to log in through your browser. And then up here, we have a couple of tabs. We're just going to go to Manage, because that's where you're going to manage all your current forms. So if you haven't dealt with forms yet, your list will be blank. If you have a couple processes, they'll be listed right here. So we're just going to make a new one. We're going to call it IT time request off. And we're going to make this a form submission. And we're going to hit. So it's very easy to just start a form. You'll get a blank slate, and then you'll be able to just start dragging fields in, as you'll see. So this is our process model. This is where the logic of what happens to the form takes place. But you know what? We're just going to dive right into actually building the form. before we get into that. We'll come back to the process modeler in a second. So this is the forms canvas. This is where you design your form. There's a lot of built-in tools here on the left that you can just simply drag in and drop in the middle of the form. So it's very intuitive if you've ever built with or played with any designer tools before. So we're gonna rename our form real quick. Let's name it IT time request form. What's wrong here? There we go. So we have our title, and then we're going to want to collect some basic information. So it's very intuitive. Let's see, we're going to need probably a couple of strings here, such as the first name. And this right here is the box that you kind of can configure what you want this box to do. So this is the first name. We're going to make this required. So this, what that does is it restricts you from submitting the form unless this field has been filled out. We're going to put a last name because that would be pretty important. Make that required as well. You know what? Let's grab an email address. Oops, forgot to check the box. So read only is actually a very unique one. That one makes the field read only so that you cannot type in it. Seems a little counterintuitive of why you would have it there, but it could be maybe you just want to display some information. We're actually going to use the read-only one in the next line, so you'll see that in a second. Let's grab the person's email, and you know what? Let's grab the date. Probably be important to know the date. So this one is the one where we'll make read-only because we want to keep a visual tracker of what the date is when this form is submitted, but we don't want the user to change the date. So this one you can make read-only, and there's actually a couple more things down here that we'll play with. So we're going to actually use the current date as a default. All right. So this is our form. It's it's starting to take shape. There's a really cool preview button here, so you can always check what your form kind of looks like, what it will look like to the public by hitting the preview button. So you can see here I have my date. It's filled in and it's read-only. I'm not able to change it, but everything else I'm able to fill in. Oops, looks like I misspelled off right here. There we go. All right, so we got a couple fields here. What else do we need? Let's get dropped down for department. So I know this is an IT time request off, but I just kind of want to show off a couple of different things here in case you wanted to make this dynamic, or like maybe down the line you want to switch this to be a multi-department. So we'll make a department drop down, and then you can just simply add some choices. So what choices do we have here? We can make this IT, and then maybe HR, and then marketing, something like that. We'll go sales. All right. So I just wanted to show some drop downs. For now, we're only going to be using the IT drop down, but you can program the logic in that process modeler screen to handle the other drop down. We'll go with the manager down here. So who the manager of each department is. Just fill in that name. We can use a drop down if we wanted. So let's just keep this simple and flowing smoothly. And then the last but not least, the most important thing we really need here is to know what dates you want to request off. So we're going to use that date field a couple more times. So let's go start date. Yeah, we'll go leave it the way it is. Start date, and then do another date for end date. And we are just about done. Oops. So as you notice here, I put the end date a little too high. So it's very easy to just kind of click a field and then move it around and drag it and customize it whichever way you want. So my field is more or less done. You know, I have all the important information. The only thing left I can do is kind of maybe spice it up, make it look a little nicer. So Laserfiche Forms comes with built-in CSS and JavaScript. So if anybody's familiar with those web tools, you can usually just start putting some code in here. It also supports HTML. So again, those are things you're familiar with. You can enter your own HTML code. But you know, for the users that are not familiar with it, you can simply apply some themes. So Laserfiche has a couple built-in themes along with customizable themes if you'd like. So we can just select some of the themes down here. I'm going to go with this one, and then it just applies the theme to your form. But again, if you want to get creative, you can customize. You can add your own logos. You can customize the background color, the wallpaper. So it's set up for users that are just diving into forms for the first time compared to users that are used to building web forms. All right. So I think that one looks good. Hit preview one more time just to check it out. Yeah. All right. So now we built our form. Not too hard. The hardest part is just figuring out what information you want on your form. All right. So now let's build some logic to handle this form so that when you hit the submit button, what is it going to do? All right. So that's where the process modeler comes in. So have you ever designed with Visio or any other kind of flowchart, visual flowchart designer? You're going to be very comfortable inside the process modeler. You have tools here on your left. You have your start and your end, and you kind of just put actions and logic in between. So what do we want to do with this submission? Well, first we want to make sure that the department manager is going to be okay with it, with the request. So we're going to drag in a user task. And we can just double click it and it will give us a couple of configurations that we'll want to choose. So for the user task, we first need to decide who is going to be doing the approval. So in our case, we know that the manager that does the time off approvals is that manager. And you can get as creative as you want. I'll show you a little bit about the dynamicness in a little bit. You select the form that they're going to want to approve, and then you select what kind of action buttons they want. So we want to approve and reject. And these are customizable. Maybe you don't want to call it approve. Maybe you want to call it something else. Maybe you don't want to call it reject. Maybe you want to call it denied. All right, so we have our action buttons. And then we want to actually send an email to Matt to let him know that, hey, there's something for him to do. So we're going to check this box here, and we're going to customize an email for Matt. I'm going to say, hello, Matt Manager. And then we're going to, the cool thing about Laserfiche Forms is we're able to put some variables in the email to make it dynamic. So we're going to say a time off request form requires your approval. Details below. So what kind of details do we want to give Matt? Let's give him the name of the person, the start date, and the end date. All right, so if you've never designed a forms before, like I said, the most important information is just trying to figure out what it is that you're going to need and what information is available to you when. So we got first name, space last name, because we know those were fields that I put on the form. We got the start date, that was something I grabbed as well, and then the end date. So this is pulling straight information straight from the form, and we're going to use it in the email to Matt Manager. All right, so hit OK here. And then we got one more thing to do before we end. So at this point, this is kind of where a branch can happen. We're not going to build it right now, but this is kind of where a branch can happen, because if you remember, he's got two choices, approve and reject. So we're going to actually save to the repository, but let me show you how the outflow works. This allows you to branch different paths depending on different situations. So at this point, the only connection we have is if the action was approved. then we're going to go down this branch. If I wanted to, I can create a second branch here, and it's very easy to connect activities together. As you can see, just click the arrow and you can connect. If I have a second branch here, you'll see that there is a second approval or a second branch here that I can code and say deny if the action was denied. So it'll go down 2 different branches and do 2 separate things, depending on which button was selected. All right, so I'm actually just going to get rid of that because I'm not going to code it in the essence of time, but we know this will go down when it hits approve. And here's our service task. So this is what happens after manager has approved it. So you can do a couple of things here. Email, save to repository, or kick off a workflow. We're just going to save it to the repository real quick. All right, so you just customize your repository settings. I know that I will be pulling from my Laserfiche server. I know which repository I'll be saving in, and you need a username that can have access to save in the repository. So every Laserfiche account has an admin username, so that's usually the one we toss in there, and then we select which form we want to save. So this gives us information about what kind of information we want to attach to our form when we save it, such as what is the name of our form? What is the name of that document we're saving in Laserfiche? And you can customize it. So I'm going to call this a request time off, and then I'm going to give it a little piece of information that made it unique from other request time off. So usually we do like a first name underscore last name and then a date, because one employee can submit more than one time request off. Hopefully not all on the same date. And then we have a path. So this is where we want to save our document. Fairly comfortable to work with. You hit this this button here with the ellipses of circles, and it will give you your repository. So my repository looks very hectic because we have a lot of different files here, but we have a folder called request time off. That's where we're going to save this. And then we got a couple folders in there. We'll save it inside the employee. Hit OK. So it'll save inside employee, but we want to actually put it in each employee's unique folder. So we're just going to customize the folder path just a little bit more. We'll put it on the employee's first name, comma, last name. All right, so we know this is going to end up in my time request off folder, in the employees folder, and in a folder that is my first, or the submitter's first name, comma, last name. If the folder already exists, they'll toss it in there. If the folder doesn't exist, it'll make a new one. We want to save this as a TIFF. You have the option of saving as a PDF as well, but we'll save it with the TIFF. And then here is where we can configure fields. So if you're familiar with the Laserfiche system, we can apply templates to documents. And that allows for quick retrieval. If we know this is a time off request form, chances are we kind of want to apply some sort of time off request template. That way we can search for it a lot quicker. When you hit the drop down, it gives you a list of all the templates in your system. Before this demo, I already created one called time off. Typically, your template matches very closely to your form. It doesn't match exactly as you'll see, but it does kind of gather most of the information that you have. And then we fill in our template with the variables from the form. Again, you hit the drop down, and we just simply say, all right, first name is going to map to first name. Last name is going to map to last name. Email will map to the provided email. So if they leave any of these blanks, it'll just go in as a blank. Department will be the department field. Manager will be the manager field. Our start date, whatever we chose that we wanted to start our vacation. End date, and then the current date was whatever's in that date field. So then I have 2 more things down here that we'll be using inside the workflow logic that I can't really populate at this point with any field variables because these 2 were not on the form. But you know what? I will populate the manager approval as approved because I know if it's going down this branch, it is going to be an approval. If I had my deny branch here, when I configure this save to repository in the deny branch, I would put deny here. And then for HR approval, it'll still be pending. All right, I'm going to hit done. So now we've designed the logic to our form. We've designed the form itself. There's a couple things you have up here. You can publish your form. So let me save real quick. Ooh, yeah, save, and then go over publish. So now I need to make my my form public. So you just publish your form, and then you can see here that this link right here is a link that you can put on your website. You can embed it. You can embed the whole form in a wireframe if you have a website going on, or you can pass the link around and bookmark it, so people can just open their browser and go to the form directly, whether it's an internal user or a public user, depending on which forms you have, because there is internal forms and public forms. But as you can see, if I just go to the link right here, it will take me directly to my form. All right, so let's do a submission. We're going to call this Claude. I'm just going to request some time off. I'll toss in my email right here. An email is for notifications purposes, because at the end of this whole process, I will get an email letting me know whether my time off has been approved or denied. Choose the IT department. You know the manager there is Matt. Manager. And this could be a lookup if we wanted to. Laserfiche Forms does support database lookups or field rules. So we know a set of field rules such as IT will always be Matt Manager. That could be something that's automatically done for you. Or we know that we can look up into a database who the current manager of the IT department is. Again, also something that can be automated and done within Laserfiche Forms. All right, so let's just request maybe take next week off and hit submit. It's going to give me a thank you and then show me a picture of my submission. All right, so yep, so I have the option of downloading a copy for myself, printing, or emailing it. So we can see here in the email that Matt Manager has gotten an email asking him to request and fill this form out. So I'm going to click this button just to show you what it looks like. So when we open this here, you can see that it's going to automatically log me in as Matt Manager because I have Matt Manager as an auto login. Gives him the form, gives him a couple of basic information about the form, when it was started, what task we're currently on in case there's multiple tasks, and then he's got his approve and deny buttons. So I'm going to hit approve. And then, so that showed up in the inbox. So every user in Laserfiche Forms has their own inbox, so they can manage different tasks that they have to do for various different forms. All right. So now I'm going to dive into the repository. So now that we've gone out of forms, I will dive into the repository and show you a little bit of logic that we'll build into the repository. So let's log in. Whoops, wrong button. Log into our repository here. I'm going to log in as admin just because I will have full range of everything I can see. So if you're a designer yourself, most likely you will have the rights to see other departments' folders and a lot of other things. So this looks a little crazy right now, but all we're really going to focus on is this folder called time request off. The other stuff is just because I'm logged in as admin. Let's take a look at my incoming and see if the form has made it there. Oops. Okay, so it made it into the employee, and here's my form. All right, looks good. So here at this point, what we're going to need to do is build some sort of logic. So we know that the form went straight into the employee folder. So we're going to need to build a little bit of logic of what to do with it next. So if you recall, the next step is we're going to need HR to get a copy of it, and HR is going to need to approve it. So we're going to need to build a workflow to pick this form up and then send it over to HR for approval. All right, so that's where workflow is going to come in handy. So let's see. So this is our workflow designer. Again, if you're not familiar with workflow designer, it works somewhat similarly to the forms designer. You have a set of built-in functions here on your left that you can just simply drag and drop, and then you have your designer in the center. So we're going to just click this button here and build a brand new workflow. So let's see. So this is what the default workflow setup looks like. You have your workflow here, you got your properties here, and you got your tools here. So we're going to need to do a couple of things first. And this is just more of a housekeeping task that you do every time you build a new workflow. You need to connect it to a repository. Workflow can connect to multiple repositories, but each workflow can only connect to one specific repository. So you can have 3 or 4 different workflows connecting to a different repository. So you hit your drop down, and we're going to choose the Laser 2014 repository. Hit validate, it's going to be successful. So what this does is it tells you where to pull metadata from, because every repository has its own unique set of templates and fields. So it's very important that you connect to the right repository, or else your templates and fields that you'll be manipulating won't show up. So we're going to rename our workflow as time off request. We're just going to hit publish real quick just to get it in the system. All right, so first thing we have to decide is how this workflow is really going to kick off. Right, so you can build a workflow, but how does it know when to start running? Right, so that's a good question we got there. So what we're really going to do is actually decide to set some type of rules with this workflow, so to tell it when to start. So that's the beauty of workflow. Workflow has the ability to set starting conditions, starting rules. So that's what we're going to do right here. We have our time, we have time off request, and we're going to add a starting rule. So you have to think to yourself, is my workflow going to start as a schedule? Maybe it'll start at the end of every week, at the end of every month, maybe the beginning of every day, or is it going to start based on a condition? And a condition could be typically when an entry does something in the repository, whether it's created, whether it's moved, something like that. So in our case, it's going to be when an entry is created, right? So if you think about it, we just had forms save a document to the repository, right underneath this folder right here for Claude Fan. So we know an entry just got created, so we need to pick it. We need to pick it up at that point and run with it, all right? So we're going to think about here. Let's see, so you have different types, entry created, entry moved. So we're going to go entry created. Notice the repository is the correct one. And let's get some conditions here. So let's think about this. Document, the entry that's created is a document. The other choice you have is a folder or records here. So we know it's going to be a document. What else do we know? How do we distinguish it from the other documents? We know where we saved it, right? If you recall in my process, in my forms model here, we know exactly where we saved it. So let's add that as a condition. And it's very simple. It's very intuitive. If you look at the wording, nothing is confusing. We can set a template name. We can set a path if we wanted. So we're going to go with the path. We know exactly where the path of our document is. So we know our document is going to be in time request off, somewhere in the employee folder. All right, so that's why we'll do contain instead of equals. So we know it's going to be somewhere inside this folder. And then let's add a template. Since we know what template we applied to it, let's add a template. So this is just to refine our search, to make sure we get exactly what we want and nothing that we don't want. All right, so let's add a template, and we'll call it our time off. So this case would be if, maybe multiple documents add into that folder. You don't want this workflow to kick off for, say, maybe an employee's driving record or an employee's, just Word doc. So So here you want to specify it to the time off only. So we'll hit OK. All right, so let's get building. All right, so this is the fun part. This is where you get to play with over 100 pre-built tools from Laserfiche, and you can get as creative as you want. We're not going to get too complicated here, but you know, we'll keep it interesting. So let's see. The first thing we need is, so now we picked up the document, right? Workflow is kicked off. We've picked up the document. So the question is, what do we do with it now? Well, let's think about this here. Every document is unique because it's got its own unique set of information. So we're going to first need to retrieve some information, and that information is going to be the field values. If you remember those, we set those up inside the modeler. So let me go over there, and then I'll give you a quick reminder where we set those up. So this is the interconnection between Laserfiche forms and workflow that you kind of build once you develop a lot of these. If you recall, we set up our fields right here. We know exactly what template we put and what fields we filled out. So workflow is going to pick that up. So you can click here in the fields box. This gives you can pull fields from every template if you want. If the document doesn't have those fields, it's going to pull blank. But it's usually best to choose the template that you know is applied to the document, and then we're just going to pull everything. All right. All right. So now we have our fields. We know the documents inside the employer's folder. We know we need to get a copy to HR so that they can approve it. All right, so let's do a route. Let's route, R-O-U-T-E. So we're going to route our entry to a different folder. All right, so right here you can click the destination. So you can see here that there's a little red dot that says destination must be set. So let's put a destination. And again, don't be afraid if you're not very familiar with the folder tree. You can click this button here with the circles, and it'll give you a folder tree. So we know we want to route this to HR in a folder called time request, and we'll just dump it there. So if that time request folder wasn't there already, you could just type in time request folder and it'll create it for the very first time for you. But since I've already created the folder yesterday, that folder was there for us to select. And let's hit OK. So we have some options here. Do we want to move it? Do we want to copy it? Or do we want to create a shortcut of it? So let's think about this here. When we move it, then the employer doesn't have a copy of it in their folder, in their system. We could copy it, but that just means there's two copies now that are not technically linked. They're independent. So the best choice right here is the shortcut. Oh, excuse me. So we'll do a shortcut. And so now we have a shortcut routing. What we need to do now is we need HR to do something. So that's where wait conditions happen. So this document will sit kind of in limbo, in pending, until this wait condition is met. So this is probably the most useful tool, or the most commonly used tool in terms of workflow routing, in terms of getting people to do things, because this thing won't move on until the wait condition is met. So let's set our wait condition. So if you recall, in my template, I have a field here prepared for HR to make a move. So a lot of the designing of workflow and forms comes with pre-knowing what information you'll need and when you'll need them. So we have a drop-down here for HR approval that we're going to be monitoring at this step. So right now it's set on pending. So we'll say entry, let's see, the field, because we know it's a field and we know the name of the field is HR approval. And you have a lot of different conditionals here. You can choose equals, does not equals, is less than, in between, has changed. So we know as long as ours does not equal pending, HR has made a move. So there's some security concerns here that we address towards the end, because you want to make sure that it is actually HR that does this decision and not somebody else. So that's going to be addressed at the end with some security rules. And you can have as many conditions as you want. But we're just going to keep it simple here. So HR is going to say something that's not pending. All right. So we know it'll sit here. Once they make their move, then now we can do something about it. So that something is going to have to be a conditional, because we know HR has two choices. They can either deny or approve. So that's where a conditional branch comes in. And I know at first 100 different pre-built tools might sound a little scary, and it might be a little overwhelming. But it really, once you get used to it, you kind of use the same ones over and over. There's the more common 12 to 15 tools that you use very often and multiple times within a workflow. So those are the ones you're comfortable with. And then there's tooltips. So if you don't remember what this does, you can just kind of highlight it, and it'll tell you, run the first branch that satisfies the condition. And it doesn't let you submit unless you properly set this up to a certain extent. So we know here that we have to submit some type of condition for it to go down this branch. All right? So what's my condition? My condition is directly related to the wait condition. Right? We waited for HR to make a move. Now we need to set conditions for HR's move. So in this case, we're going to go to field again, go down to HR, and say if the field equals approve, we're going to go down the approve branch. You're going to notice here, this is the default branch. We'll set it for denied. Field HR equals denied. All right, so now we got our branches. So we're almost done, right? HR has made their move. We just need to clean up and do any notifications. All right, so what will I do? Well, I'm going to route out of the HR. So if you recall in the HR folder, I've set it up so that there's some approve and deny folders here. So originally it's going to sit right here outside the approve and denied, so we know exactly what's pending. And then we're going to just route the shortcut to approve or deny. So now employee has a record and HR has a record. So that's very simple to do. We set the destination again. Go down to HR and select approve. All right, so we're almost done. Next thing we know, we're going to set the deny branch. So we can do a copy and a paste here. And then we're going to switch this from approve to deny. So now we have both of our shortcuts being taken care of. One thing you have to be careful for that new designers always, like myself, that we made when I was first learning, is the entry to route. You don't want to route the starting entry, because the starting entry is the document that created this whole process. And that's the original document inside Employers. We want to route the shortcut. So right here where it says route entry to folder, that's where we made the shortcut. So we are moving the shortcut. It's something hard and it takes a while to get used to, but it's very important that you make sure you're routing the right document. All right, and then the last thing we're going to do is an email. So if you recall, we actually pulled, the last thing we'll do is pull an email, and then we're just going to run this bad boy. So here's our email. We're just going to set it up for approval. Here we know that when we pull the information, we know the submitter's email because I put it on the form. So we're going to email, I'm going to email the submitter, and I'm going to just put in some basic information. It says, hello, grab my information here, first name, your requests for time off during or between start date hyphen end date has been approved. Actually, we don't even need to put approved. We can put the, actually, let's put approved. Has been approved. See attached. All right, finishing up real quick, we can attach documents. So let's add an attachment. So let's attach the original starting. Yeah, we'll attach the original document. We'll attach it. You can attach it as a Laserfiche document or an image. So we're going to attach it as a JPEG. Hit OK here. Let's include annotations. All right, and we publish. So we are done. Oops, subject field must be specified. Request approved. All right. So last thing to do is test, do one quick run through, and then we can call it done. All right. So let's get out of here. Get out of here real quick. All right. So we don't want Map Manager. We're going to log in as our Forms admin, just so I can get the link. So we had that link that I don't think I have the link anymore. Oh, I do have the link. Sweet. So I don't even need to log in. So let's go to the link. Let's submit another request. We'll call it John Doe this time. And we're going to keep my same email. We'll put IT department and Map Manager with some dates. Hit submit. All right, so this should now end up in the Map Manager's inbox. We're going to actually directly log into Map Manager instead of going in through my email. Actually, we can go through the email since I got it already. So here's the John Doe. Hit the form to approve. It's going to ask me to log in as Map Manager. Just in case you're curious what the inbox looks like, so this takes you directly to the approval form. So this is what it looks like as an inbox. You get the task underneath things for you to do. So Map Manager will approve it. All right, take a look at it here in the repository. So I'm going to log out and log in as HR real quick so you can see what I meant by the security rights. And then we'll be done in a couple seconds. Ooh. So we're going to log in as Hank HR. So you can see here clearly not the long list of folders, but there is an HR folder. And here's my John Doe request. It's a shortcut put in for Hank. You can double click it. You're going to notice here that everything else is read-only except the HR because I set security rights specifically for HR login. We're going to put stamp that says it's been approved with a date. Hit approve and save it. So this is our testing process. You're going to notice that the document goes out of the folder. It goes into approved. And we should be getting an email right here. So it says, hi, John. Thanks for the time off request. See the attachment. And we are good. So very simple HR request. Could be as complicated as you want and as advanced as you want, but it also can be very simple to serve a very important purpose. All right, so with that, I will turn this over back to Dione. And if there are any other questions or comments you guys want to talk about, we'll be more than happy to answer questions about the building of the form or the workflow or any other questions. All right, Dione, so I hope you can hear me.
Right.
I'm going to send this back to you and make you the presenter.
Okay, awesome.
All right, all yours.
Great, thank you. Wow, that was really easy. I actually have you do a workflow for some of our marketing tasks if you're interested. Thank you so much, Claude. We have a couple of announcements before we transition into Q&A. For those of you who have heard about Empower, Laserfiche has a promotion taking place, and we wanted to inform everyone. They're currently offering a free Laserfiche Empower conference pass with the purchase of any new Laserfiche software. With this new purchase, the customer will receive an Empower registration code, which must be redeemed during the early bird registration, which ends November 20th, so that is coming up soon. The Empower conference takes place January 11th through the 14th. And to learn more about this promotion, please do contact us. And if you have heard about Empower, there are just a couple quick things that I wanted to let everyone know about. Attendees can choose from more than 200 training courses taught by Laserfiche Empower engineers, experts, and customers. As many of you can see, there are attendees in several different demographics and people in every different industry that you can think of. Attendees have a chance to network with more than 2,500 members of the global Laserfiche community and user group or API user groups. There are cocktail receptions, other networking events. You can also test drive some of the newest features in Laserfiche or the Laserfiche product line, and that will be available exclusively to Empower 2016 attendees. So if you are interested in Laserfiche, please reach out to us, or sorry, Laserfiche Empower, please reach out to us. We are happy to give more information, and I will go ahead and open up the lines for Q&A. Feel free to raise your hands, let us know if there are any questions. So let's see if we have any questions. Okay. Also, the passes are actually valued at $8.95, so that is an extremely good value if anyone's interested in attending. There are a ton of helpful sessions that take place throughout those 3 days. So it looks like we have a question from Rachel, and Rachel is asking, can you have multiple approvers in multiple departments? That's for you, Claude.
Yes, you can. You can make approvals in a sequential linear mode. As you notice in the forms, I went straight to that manager. I could have went to a higher manager after that, or a CEO or somebody even higher after that. And likewise, I did the approval in forms. Same idea. We can have multiple approvers chained together. Or we can be dynamic. Maybe in one of the drop-downs, you choose which approver you want to send it to. So you can make a lot of dynamic approval as well as a linear transition of approvals. All right, good question, Rachel.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, thank you so much for that. Okay, so it looks like we have one question from Tom. Can the workflow be ad hoc, or does it have to follow specific business rules?
I guess I'll take this one as well. So workflow can be ad hoc. It can, like I said, there's a lot of dynamicness around it, where we can route to different people, do different things based on entry decisions. For the most part, there has to be some sort of logic, though. So as long as there's a logic that it can follow, you know, in terms of which direction it will go, there has to be some sort of logic following behind it. So it is somewhat ad hoc, but you have to program or code in the logic behind it to handle those kind of decisions.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, let's see if we have any more questions. Okay, one from Jonathan. He's asking, how many different fields can you put on the eForm?
The eForm itself, I've never hit a capacity. You have to kind of just balance how much you want. There are a lot of companies that transform a 20-page paper document into an eForm. We can make collapsible forms in case there's tables that repeat themselves. But there is no limitation as far as I've been building forms in terms of how much you can put. But you do have to be careful. If you put too much, it could be a little hard to look at. So there has to be some sort of balance. But you can put a lot in there. There's a lot of companies that have put, you know, multi-page forms online electronically. And with customization of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS, you can get creative in terms of not making your form, you know, 20-page long in terms of a vertical distance.
Okay, awesome. Very helpful information. And if anybody else has any questions, the lines are still open. Also, feel free to email me after the webinar. I know that many people have been receiving those emails from either George, our CEO, or myself, the marketing manager, and you can definitely follow up after the webinar. And we are going to be sending this recording out tomorrow. Looks like we have one more. Let's see. Typing. Okay, question from Amy. Is this only for internal employees, or can we use it with customers, suppliers, and candidates?
You can use it for both. So if you recall, the way I accessed the form was through that link, that published link. If you have public forms, that link can be posted. The link can be posted on a web page or something like that, and then when people click the link, they don't need to log in. If you have internal forms only, you'll need some sort of login or some sort of license to get into it. It depends which license, which version of forms you purchase. If it's public, you can put the link up publicly and nobody needs to log in, so they can just go to the link and submit. If it's internal, there needs to be some sort of either Laserfiche login or Laserfiche participant license attached to whoever's about to submit. So there are two options.
Okay, and that really just depends on the version of forms that the client purchases?
Exactly. We have a lot of clients that have some type of supplier form that they post and send out to their suppliers in case they're requesting new parts. You know, it's not reasonable to have all your suppliers become Laserfiche users. So at that point, you would want to make forms public.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions. Just want to give everyone the chance. Again, you can also email at the end of the webinar. Want to make sure we wrap this up before 12 o'clock. I know some people have lunch plans, so thank you so much for your questions, and that just about wraps up our Q&A portion. Again, I will be sending this recording out to all the attendees who weren't able to attend and those who didn't get a chance to sign up for today. We want to let everyone know of next steps. So we currently have a client survey out, and that email has gone out to everyone attending the webinar today, in addition to a number of our other clients. So our company culture, as you guys may know, is being very delight-focused, and delight is our core value. We have a very important client survey circulating. I do have the link displayed here. I will go ahead and send out a reminder email this afternoon. And we have a raffle for a free iPad taking place on Monday. There's also a special promotion within the survey link, as most of you may have seen if you've already completed the survey. The most important thing we want from our clients is feedback. We want to know how we can improve, how your experience has been with AMI, any additional services or products that you'd like to see us offer in the future. We're always interested in hearing from our clients. Again, we have the Empower promotion. I did see somebody express interest in that, so I will definitely follow up. And then in December, we will be having another Q&A webinar, and we'll be sending out the details for that. So just check your emails often. And we have the Empower conference taking place in January. We hope to meet a lot of our clients in person. And that just about wraps up our session. Thank you very much for your time today. And don't forget to fill out the survey, and I will be sending the recording tomorrow. Have a good afternoon. Bye.
All right. Bye, everybody.